Okay. So this is the 5B review. So the first question we have is, how can you verify a zero of a polynomial? So let's say that is 5 a zero? Question mark. So if 5 is a zero, two ways you go about doing it. Well, if 5 is a zero, then when you plug 5 into your function, you're going to get an output of 0. So you just plug it in. If 5 is a 0, so if 5 is a 0, then what is one of the factors? X minus 5 will be a factor. And one way to check if something is a factor is you use long division, and you're going to try to divide x minus 5 into it. And if you get a remainder of 0, that means x minus 5 goes into it evenly. Well, then 5 must have been a 0. So we'll have a chance to do that here coming up. But those are the two ways. Okay, number 2 is just, it's a beast of a question, but we're going to make this our goal to get through number 2 before you guys get out today. So you're given this huge nasty function, and it says that x minus 7, x minus 5, and x plus 2 are all factors of it. Which actually means that if you took x minus 7 times x minus 5 times x plus 2, there's some function you could multiply those by, and you would get x to the 5th minus 8x to the 4th minus 12x cubed plus 122x squared plus 107x minus 210. So your goal is trying to figure out what this function is. There's two ways to do it. Okay, you can take this in green. You can divide it by x minus 7. You'll get an answer. Okay, you can then take that answer and divide it by x minus 5. You'll get a new one. Then take that answer divided by x plus 2. You'll get a new one. And finally, you'll be left with what sits in here. You'd have to do long division 3 times. I am going to propose that we don't do that. And instead of doing long division 3 times, we're going to do it once. So we really want to know what's left when we divide this out of the green. Well, we can do that with long division, but you're going to have to multiply all that together. So first, your first job is to figure out what is x minus 7 times x minus 5 times x plus 2. So that's an exercise in itself. First thing I'm going to have you do is figure out what that blue thing is, because once we get what's in blue, we'll multiply by x plus 2. So you'd need 4 multiplications to do it. So you go x and x, x and minus 5, minus 7 and x, and minus 7 and minus 5. You'll have 4 terms, 2 of which can be combined. But ultimately, it turns into x squared minus 12x plus 35. You'll then take that, and you've got to multiply it. You've got to multiply it by the orange, which is x plus 2. So one way to organize that and do that is, how many different terms do you see in the orange piece? 2. So you're going to take x and you're going to multiply it by the blue. You go plus 2 multiplied by the blue. So you got to do all of that and then combine your like terms. So we can do that real quick. (2x squared minus 24x plus 70). Brendan, have you done that yet? You have those? What do you got, Matt?
X cubed minus 10x squared plus 11x plus 7.
Plus 11x plus 70. Okay, you had that yesterday. So you're gonna have to take what's in yellow and divide it into the green thing there, and I can help you with that. I know we're running short on time, but let's try it. So there's green. Paste. Come on. So we're gonna divide in what was in yellow. That was this guy here. Okay, so first, x cubed times what is x to the 5th? So you've got x, that's your x cubed. What do you multiply by to get 5 x's? X squared. So we got an x squared here. So that x squared gets multiplied by all of these. So x squared and x cubed, that's x to the 5th. X squared, negative 10x squared is negative 10x to the 4th. X squared and 11x is 11x cubed. X squared and 70 is plus 70x squared. Don't forget that you're subtracting, because sometimes you're going to be subtracting a negative. So subtracting a negative, that'll be 2x to the 4th, because you're adding, that'll be negative 23x cubed. 122 minus 70 is 52x squared. You can bring down the rest, 107x minus 210. Okay, now you're going to try to go x cubed into 2x to the 4th. So x cubed times what is 2x to the 4th? 2x. So now you got to multiply 2x by those 4 things in yellow. So 2x to the 4th minus 20x cubed plus 22x squared plus 140x. Keep track of the subtraction. This one's going to turn into negative 3x cubed. This will be 30x squared. And this will be, what, negative 33x? You got one more. So now you got to go x cubed into negative 3x cubed. So what's the multiplier? Negative 3. And you go through it again. So you're almost there. I'll finish this and post it tonight for you guys. Alright, here we go. So we're continuing the 5B review here. I don't think we were done with this problem yet. So, minus 3 times x cubed was minus 3x cubed. Minus 3x cubed minus 3 times minus 10x squared was plus 30x squared. Minus 3 times 11x was minus 33x. Starting to get the impression that we're going to have no remainder. So notice, line for line, this one and this one match up. So take something and take away itself, you get 0. So when you divide yellow into green, you get blue. So think about, what does that mean? Well, that means that yellow times blue equals green. Okay, so we know that yellow times blue equals green. And the whole idea here in this problem was you're trying to rewrite the green as a product of linear factors. And so we know that when you multiply these two, you get the green. Well, you also know, though, from the yellow, right? The yellow was built from 3 linear factors. It was built from these 3. So those 3 made up the yellow right there. Now, those 3 times x squared plus 2x minus 3, they make up, like we said, this one. Now, the whole goal, once again, write this as a product of linear factors. You're good, right? Linear factor, linear factor, linear factor. Oh, I got a quadratic. But we can factor quadratics. This quadratic here factors 2x plus 3x minus 1. So, we did it. You got this thing broken down as a product of linear factors. And if you think about the process you went through, you first said, well, I know that this fifth degree polynomial has these three linear factors in it. So, if these three linear factors, if they are factors of the green, then when I divide them into the green, it'll go in evenly. And it did. When you divided them in, it produced this, which was then factorable. So, nice work there. That's a tough problem. So we'll grab this answer, go put it back up, copy. So moving on, we're not going to necessarily do every problem, but we'll do a bunch of them. So our final answer is, that is P of x equals P of x. So we highlight that in. So there you go. So a couple different ways to write P of x. You can write it like this one. Oh goodness. P of x can be written that way. That's it in standard form. Or P of x can be rewritten in factored form this way. So, okay. 3. I like 3. We're going to do 3. I'm going to get you started, actually. So in 3, you know that 3 is a 0 of h of x, which means if 3 is a 0, then x minus 3 is a factor. And it says the multiplicity is 2, so x minus 3 squared is a factor. Determine the remaining zeros. So, you know x minus 3 squared is a factor. So one option would be to take 2x to the 4th minus 21x cubed plus 67x squared minus 51x minus 45. One option would be to divide in x minus 3, get an answer, and then divide x minus 3 into that answer. Or, shortcut it, right? Well, if x minus 3 squared is a factor, you know, it divides in evenly, then x minus 3 times x minus 3, whatever that is, will also divide in evenly. X squared minus 3x minus 3x plus 9. So x squared minus 6x plus 9. So I'm going to divide in x squared minus 6x plus 9. So x squared times what is 2x to the 4th? You got a 2x squared, 2x to the 4th, right? We're just multiplying. X squared, 2x to the 4th, sorry, 2x squared times negative 6x will be a negative 12x cubed. Careful on that subtraction there. And then 2x squared times 9 will be 18x squared. Alright, we're cruising. So 0, taking away a negative. Negative 21, take away negative 12 is negative 9x cubed. 67, take away 18, 57, 49, 49x squared. And these will drop down because there's zeros. Negative 51, take away 0. So negative 51x minus 45. Next, I'm going, hey, x squared times what is negative 9x cubed? Answer is, let's see, you know you need how many x's are you missing? You're missing one x and a 9, right? 9x times x squared. I need a negative. Negative 9x times x squared is negative 9x cubed. Negative 9x times negative 6x is 54x squared. Negative 9x times 9 is minus 81. Watch the minus 81x. Watch the negative. Okay, subtraction. 0. Negative 6x squared. 30x minus 45. So we got one more. X squared into negative 6x squared. So the multiplier is going to be minus 6. And then we should get, I mean, if it's a factor, it's going to have remainder 0. But we'll do the multiplication. Negative 6x squared 30. That looks like 36x. 51, 61, 81. And that's a 6 there. I'm kind of freaking out because negative 6 times negative 6 will be 36x. So I feel like I made a mistake. X squared minus 6x plus 9. Because, you know, here's why I'm freaking out. 36x. If it's a factor, well, I'm going to have a minus 6x there. And I know that if it's a factor, then the remainder should be 0. So I got to follow my steps real quick. So to explain my thinking, I guess. So 2x squared times all this was 2x to the 4th, negative 12x cubed, and then 18x squared. 67 minus 18 is 57, 49. Okay. Oh, 49 right here. Here's my mistake. 49 take away 54 is 5. So that would be a minus 5x squared minus, so that ends up being plus 30x minus 45. So that's going to fix it. So we're now down to x squared times what is negative 5x squared. And that's a minus 5. Minus 5x squared plus 30x minus 45. And that gets us our remainder of 0. So hey, cool. Blue times yellow is green. So we're asked to determine the remaining zeros. And you're like, well, how's this going to help me with the zeros? Well, first you got to determine the remaining factors. And then once you have the remaining factors, you can determine the remaining zeros. So, like I said, blue times yellow is green. So we're going to factor the blue thing back out and factor the yellow back out. So, let's see, blue was, I think that blue was x minus 3 squared. Now the yellow, that's going to have to be factored, and I'm going to split the middle term to factor it. So 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Split the middle term. Let's see, what multiplies to negative 10 adds to negative 9. That would be negative 10 and 1. So 2x squared minus 10x plus x minus 5. Group them up. 2 and an x, x minus 5. Plus 1 times x minus 5. So 2x plus 1, x minus 5. So you have now fully factored your original polynomial. You knew that 3 was a 0 with multiplicity of 2, which allowed you to figure out what the second part of this equation was. So this times this. So when you look at those, you look at this polynomial, same as the original, 2x plus 1, x minus 5. When you look at this polynomial here, I don't remember what it was called, if it was h of x or h of x. I'm a little bit out of the bounds here. So when you look at this polynomial, which we've rewritten it, obviously 3 was a 0. What are the remaining zeros? Well, what makes 2x plus 1 0? Negative 1/2. So remaining zeros are negative 1/2, 0. What makes x minus 5 0? 5 does. So 5 comma 0. So there we go. We've identified the remaining zeros, and we used polynomial long division to first help us identify the remaining factors, and then we transferred factors to zeros. Alright. I'll zip you through A through C, just parts of it. You've done A, previously, problems like it. Here's a factor. Whoops. Here's a factor, divided in, determine the remaining factors. In B is a little different. They give you a 0. Well, if you know a 0, how do you convert a 0 to a factor? Well, if negative 2/5 is a 0, x plus 2/5, or you could even do 5x plus 2. Those are factors. It's probably nicer to do a 5x plus 2. So anyways, you divide in 5x plus 2, look at what's remaining. This is a linear factor, and you're dealing with a cubic. So obviously you're going to produce a quadratic when you do the division. And then I think that quadratic will be factorable. C, you're like, oh my gosh, they gave me different information. Yeah, they gave you 2 points, but those points are zeros. So how do you take the point negative 1, 0 and turn it into a factor? Well, negative 1, 0 is just like saying f of negative 1 is 0, which is just like, that's the same as having the factor x plus 1. 8, 0, well, it must contain the factor x minus 8. So you can play that game of divide this into here, figure out what's left, and then divide in x minus 8. Or if you'd like, multiply these two together and divide in their product into t of x. So, hey, I hope this helps you guys. I think that's all we have. Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Good luck on your assessment tomorrow.